Tune in this month on the Cutter Historical YouTube channel as September will be a September to remember, as many sports will be broadcast. Baseball, we have the OTP Legends League Season 4 alongside PC Replay Baseball at times. It's the pennant stretch. Above the Rim College Hoops, the 64 best teams through the 16 tournaments that I pre-done will be set up, and a tournament winner must be held. Second and 10 PC football, as college football on Saturday and NFL on Sunday. 128 team single elimination battles will commence. Stone Cold Hockey, we will talk about the 1981-82 season set and a playthrough there. Cutter top 10 sports videos on major sports, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, and a few others. ASG Golf goes Canadian as all four tours head to Glen Abbey in Oakville for weekend battles. NHL 94 Emulator mods, as ROMs will be set up of different national teams and different NHL formats. Of course, chat about boxing. We'll have a grand tournament of winners from Legends of Boxing and much, much more. It's the Cutter Historical YouTube channel for September. Don't miss it. And now back to your feature presentation. Hey there, how there, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome to a very somber Stone Cold Hockey video, and it's not to do with a season or a tournament. This is to do with the 1971 Montreal Canadiens facing the 1979 Montreal Canadiens in what is highlighted, the Ken Dryden Tribute Series. We will be doing a 7-game playoffs between the 71 Habs and the 79 Habs. Why are we doing this? Well, simple. Because of this. Ken Dryden passing away today, September the 5th, 2025. Well, he died late last night, but this is September 6th. So Ken Dryden died. He was a goalie, politician, lawyer, businessman, and author. So he was a kind of a quintuple threat, if you will. He was part of the Order of Canada, which is the highest order you can get as a civilian in a sense, and a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. He was a member of Parliament in Canada for 7 years. He played for the Habs from 1971 to 1979. 9 seasons went, well, 8 technically, winning the Stanley Cup 6 times and winning the Vezina 5 times. Of course, as you read, the Vezina for the goalie on the team allowing the fewest goals. The Vezina was different before 1982. It was given to the goalie who played at least 25 games on the team that gave up the fewest goals. So that's like a great goalie like Mike Liut would have been the Vezina winner. Well, he was the MVP runner-up in 1981, for example, but didn't win the trophy because that went to the player with 25 games, and it went to Sevigny, Larocque, and Heron. Then the NHL decided to change the rules up by 81-82, making the Vezina for the best goalie, and it didn't matter about goal differential. He was born in Hamilton in 1947, drafted by the Boston Bruins in 1964 amateur draft, but Boston traded him to Montreal for Paul Reed and Guy Allen, who didn't know that. Dryden was actually told by his own agent he was drafted by the Habs, and didn't find out till the mid-70s that Boston drafted him and traded him. Well, none of those players actually made sense, except for Dryden, of course. Dryden decided not to go through the Montreal system. He decided to pursue a degree in hockey, well, in history at Cornell University. And Cornell, doing what the NCAA stuff, kind of like what some players like Gavin McKenna are doing. They're going to the NCAA instead of playing major junior. So anyway, yeah, Cornell, he played hockey till he graduated in 1969 and helped them win the 1967 NCAA tournament and 3 tournament championships of the East Coast League, winning 76 out of 81 varsity starts, which was actually amazing. Cornell was a powerhouse in NCAA hockey. Dryden actually spent a year away from the NHL to be part of a Toronto law firm and to earn a degree from McGill in 1973. Well, it was mostly because he was upset. He won 2 Stanley Cups, but was not paid that proper. So he basically decided to say, "Screw you! I'm going to be a lawyer." And then Montreal, after following the 1974 playoffs, decided to bring him back. Anyway, Cornell retired as number 1, and the only other player by Cornell to retire was Joe Nieuwendyk. I didn't know Joe Nieuwendyk was a Cornell guy. Anyway, Dryden played his first game, March 71, against the Penguins in Pittsburgh, winning 5-1. He actually played 6 games of the in that season and won all 6 of them. So yeah, he actually played against Dave Dryden, his older brother, who was an icon for the Edmonton Oilers in the WHA days. Montreal, well, Rogie Vachon suffered an injury, and so Ken Dryden played. And then Buffalo kind of knew they needed to replace their guy. I can't remember. Was it Dushorty? Can't remember. But yeah, Dave Dryden was in. It's the only time in NHL history a pair of brothers faced each other off as goalies. So he played 6 regular season games, a 1.65 goals against. Habs were 6-0, and Alan McNeil, who was the rookie head coach who got bounced from his role because of his problems with Pocket Rocket Richard, that's Henri, started ahead of Rogie Vachon. I can't remember the other goalie, too. Phil Meyer. Oh, yeah, Phil Meyer. So, anyway, he helped the Habs win the Stanley Cup. He also won the Conn Smythe Trophy for MVP and all that, which was amazing because, he won the Conn Smythe before he was eligible for the Calder. So yeah, so Dryden won 6 cups: 71, 73, 76, 77, 78, 79. He was basically the stone wall, and his number 29 was rightfully retired by the Habitants. Anyway, Dryden won the Calder Trophy, which was weird because, he won the starting goalie job. He won the Conn Smythe for MVP of the playoffs, and then he was eligible to win the Calder because he didn't play 25 games. That's the NHL rule, that if you play less than 25 regular season games, you're still a rookie, no matter how many seasons it took. I think they had, and I think now the rule is you have to be 26 or younger. Well, anyway, regardless of that, he's the only player to win the Conn Smythe before winning the Rookie of the Year, and I think he's the only player. Yeah, no, never mind. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, he was the part of the goalie tandem for Canada at the Summit Series against the Russians, and it was him and Tony Esposito, and they decided to split those starts between Dryden and Esposito. Esposito played 4 games. Dryden played only 4 games. That's what people forget about Dryden. Dryden played from 1971 to 1979, and of course had that break because Montreal's contract. So he decided to join a law firm for $135 a week, which is pretty much amazing and all that. So the Habs decided to give up the goat, if you will, give him the bag. It was kind of weird that Dryden's NHL career was only short 7 full seasons. Like, what would have happened if Dryden played more seasons? Would he have the wins record? Would he have like shutouts record and all that? So yeah, you won the Vezina 5 times, but that was to the goalie on the team with the fewest goals. It was actually kind of impressive. He's played only 7 full seasons, and at 6'4", was so tall that during stoppages of play, he did his trademark pose, leaning above his stick, upon his stick. He was known as the four-story goalie, and that thieving giraffe by Phil Esposito. Also, that bleeping octopus by, I think, Espo. But anyway, yeah. Dryden didn't know that George Vezina did the whole thing when he leaned upon his stick on a pose. Dryden was inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility in 1983. His number 29 was retired on January 29, 2007. He was also known for writing stuff. He even wrote a book about Team Canada when they took on the Russians in 72. He wrote several more books. The game was a commercial success and all that. From 1983, yeah, I remember reading the crap out of the game and knowing all about Dryden's last season with the Habs and basically his life story. He's the one who published the Scotty book, A Hockey Like No Other. And Dryden said he needed to write this book. So Ken Dryden wrote the Scotty Bowman book. So yeah, hopefully I still have that Scotty Bowman book. I'm probably going to keep it. Well, obviously. Anyway, he was actually a commentator for ABC's coverage of the Winter Olympics in 1980, 84, and 88. I know that. I remember that. But yeah, Dryden was the color commentator for the Miracle on Ice alongside Al Michaels as play-by-play man. That was amazing. And to see Ken Dryden in a blue, what they call a tracksuit, when they did the introductions of him and Al Michaels. It's just amazing and all that. And Al Michaels is still alive. So anyway, Dryden actually was talking about how the Americans were depending a little too much on Jim Craig, and then all of a sudden, Mikey Ruziani slapped the puck and interrupted Dryden's thoughts, and Al Michaels had to call the Ruziani call. It was one of the best calls ever. But yeah, Dryden was a color commentator at the Winter Olympics. But people forget about that. Anyway, Dryden was actually named president of the Leafs in 1997, which was like shocking, especially the Montreal fans, because I mean, come on, why the fuck? Pardon my language. Would you be president, hockey president of an opposing team, a rival team? And you know how much Montreal and Toronto freaking rivals. Pat Quinn became head coach in 1998, but there was reports that those two couldn't get along. Quinn was actually named GM instead of Bob Gainey. Dryden spoke at a summit to discuss improvements needed at ice hockey in Canada and all of that. He basically said that they needed on ice officials to stop being abused by coaches and players and by hockey parents. So, anyway, Dryden ended up losing his job by 2003 and all that. But of course, there's one massive thing about being president of the Maple Leafs is that Ken Dryden actually managed to bump into uh, the agent for Curtis Joseph while going for ice cream and all that. And they agreed that Cujo should leave Edmonton for Toronto in the free agency, and Toronto would ride Cujo, and it worked out. Nevertheless, Dryden joined the Liberal Party of Canada and ran for the House of Commons in 2004 and was elected at York Centre. And he was elected. So he was named as Minister of Social Development. Anyway, he looked good. He was reelected in 2006. Oh, but he was still with York Center, but then he ended up losing the 2011 election to the Conservatives, and what was a blowout, no, blowout in a sense for the Liberal Party. Dryden wanted to be the leader of the Liberal Party by 2006, and his fundraising couldn't do anything about it. People actually said that he had a ponderous speaking style and limited French. All that he actually ended up. Dryden actually endorsed Stephane Dion, who won the leadership. Some say Bob Ray should have had it. Anyway, Ken's the son of Margaret and Murray. Dryden and his wife Linda have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. So, yeah, and of course, Dave was a goalie for the NHL and WJ. Dave was from 61 to 80, and then Ken died of a fight with cancer at 78. I didn't even know he had cancer. Look at all those awards, look at all the stuff and all of that. Pretty impressive. He doesn't have a substantive doctorate, but has honorary degrees from the UBC, York, Windsor, Ottawa, Ryerson, well, Toronto Metropolitan now, McGill, and Winnipeg. Regular season, great job. 258 wins, 57 losses, 74 ties. It's amazing. The guy had more ties than losses. That's the mark of a good goalie. I mean, Patrick Roy and Martin Brodeur can't hold a candle to this guy. In the playoffs, he was 80 and 32, 112 games, 112 decisions, all of that. The funny thing about Dryden was that he was actually almost on the way out in the Stanley Cup Finals in '79 against the Rangers. Rangers had shelled him. They put him out of. They removed Dryden in the third period for Bunny LaRock, and everyone said Bunny LaRock was going to play Game 2 with the Rangers winning Game 1. However, Doug Ricebell, Kitchener Ranger, actually inadvertently hurt Bunny LaRock with a warm-up shot. Bunny was hurt, so they had to put Dryden back in the net, and he proved to be the Ken Dryden of old, if you will. All right, so we're going to do all this. I know it took a long time, So we're all playing the 79 Montreal, 71 Montreal. What we're going to try to do is make sure Dryden doesn't play Dryden. So game one has Meyer versus Dryden. Okay, so 71 Habs take on the 79. Has Meyer versus Dryden. See the 71 Habs with Rogie, Phil Meyer, and Ken Dryden. This is basically regular season stuff with the starts. Yeah, but Rogie would go on to do better things with LA and Detroit and Boston. Phil Meyer would do better things with the Atlanta Flames. And Dryden, of course, was a Montreal guy. 79, Ken Dryden had Buddy LaRocque as his backup till 1981 when he got traded to T-Dot. So the 71 team and the 79 teams. Let's see. How many people have played for both teams? I don't know. Well, Jacques Lemaire has played for both teams. Réjean Houle, point two did. Pierre LaRouche, Phil Pat Hughes, LaRouche. Oh no, he was in Serge Savard. Yep, Serge Savard played for both teams. Cournoyer would play for both teams. I would know that. I mean, why wouldn't he? Yep. And Dryden. So 6 of the 79 Habs played for the 71 Habs. And vice versa. So we're just trying to make sure that Dryden doesn't face Dryden. So we'll auto finish. And the 7019 team won 5-2. 71 Habs had 2 goals by Key Lapointe in the third period, which broke up the shutout. Montreal 7019 team Lafleur, Lambert, Larouche, Lapointe, and Ricebrell. Kitchener. Yeah, that's weird. That's the only goal scored by a non-player with the letter L in his last name. Excuse me. Game 2 sees Rogie versus Bunny LaRocque. So we'll auto finish. And it's 71 team winning 6-2. So Rogie beats Bunny. 79 team Pat Hughes and scored both goals. 71 Habs Petey Mahovlich, Johnny Ferguson, Mahovlich again, John Ferguson again, and then Serge Savard and Phil Roberto. Game 3 sees Dryden versus Vachon, so we'll auto finish. And it's the 79 team winning 3-0. Dryden with the shutout. Lambert, Lemaire, and Ricebrell. Kitchener, the goal. Game 4, Bunny versus Vachon. And the 71 team wins 7-4. 79 actually did score goals. Réjean, Hughes, Lafleur, and Shutt. 71 team Sheehan, Cournoyer, Beliveau, Tartif. Yeah, he played for the 71 team. Jean Beliveau and Jean Beliveau. A lot of people were like, hang on, didn't Guy Lafleur play for the 71 team? No, that was the year he was drafted. So it's 2-2. Game 5 sees Dryden versus Bunny. And Bunny wins 5-2 for the 79 squad. 71 team Ferguson and Rochefort. Montreal goes by Larry Robinson, Kitchener, Doug Jarvis, Lafleur, Napier, and Shutt. So now we go to game 6. The 79 team on the road, Dryden versus Phil Meyer. In the nets. The 79 Habs had a good season, regular season. Boston almost took them out in the Stanley Cup semifinals, but lost game 7. You all know why. And you saw because of the whole Boston too many man penalty, Stanjanovan. And then, Lafleur scored with a minute and a half left in the game. And then in overtime, Yvonne Lambert scored. 71 Habs were basically dead at dinner because they had to face this Bruins, who were this powerful hockey powerhouse, the defending champs, and they scored over 300 goals in the season. But Dryden 6-4 reach actually worked out, and Montreal won at Game 7 in Boston, then went on to beat the Hawks in Game 7 in Chicago, thanks to a Jacques Lemaire goal that eluded Tony Esposito. And that started Pocket Rockets' move, and of course, Al McNeil got fired. Well, 79 Habs also lost their coach. Scotty Bowman left because he was not made GM. It was Irving Grudman who was made GM after Sam Pollock retired. So he went to Buffalo, and Al McNeil was basically demoted because of his frosty relationship with the Quebec media. All right, so the 79 team, you got Guy Lafleur, who was drafted in 71, so he was not eligible for the 71 team. Steve Shutt, great left wing. Or for many years, he was the goal scoring leader of left wingers ever. Pierre Mondieu, Mario Tremblay, Sorry, but you know my feelings about Mario Tremblay, especially with the Patrick Roy situation. I mean, if he left Patrick Roy in for and left and released him after the first period and said, Jablonski should be in net, who knows what would have happened? Yvon Lambert, who said after scoring that goal against Boston, said, for 24 hours, it was more powerful than Guy Lafleur. Jacques Lemaire, who played for both teams, but yeah, Jacques Lemaire was a pretty good player. He went to Switzerland to play hockey after the 79 season and then came back as a good executive. He was an assistant coach for the Habs, I think, at one time. And then he became head coach of the Devils and the Wild and used the neutral zone trap to his advantage. Bob Gainey, one of the best defensive forwards ever. Even the Russians were blushing. Rajon Uhl, aka Peanut, who was criticized for being the GM in 1995 after Serge Savard and was dumped as GM early in the 95-96 season. Larry Robinson, Kitchener. Yeah, former Kitchener Ranger. .2 kilo point on both teams, but yeah, .2 was good. He was a practical joker, part of the big three for defense. Mark Napier, 79 team, Doug Riceborough. Again, I say Kitchener because, former Kitchener Ranger. Look it up, people. Doug Jarvis, the original Ironman before Phil Hot Dog Kessel came in. Pierre LaRouche, who was a good 50-goal scorer for the Habs, but he was a problem child. And, other franchises didn't have much luck with him. Pat Hughes, Serge Savard, the Senator, part of the big three. Rick Chartres, Kitchener. And you can look that up. Chartres was a Kitchener Ranger. Brian Engblom, good player, good commentator for ESPN. Rod Langway, who was with the Habs, and then they traded him to Washington for Rick Green. And, well, more people, but yeah, Rick Green. And it actually worked out well for Washington. Langway was a two-time Norris Trophy winner there, and his number 5 is retired. Yvon Cornway, this was his final season, and I think it was by February, he was basically, I think he retired, didn't he? I don't know, but anyway, Gilles Lupien, Cam Connor, and Dan Newman. The 71 team, you got the Roadrunner, Petey Mahovlich, which was amazing because they ended up getting his big brother, Frank Mahovlich, through Detroit. Well, Toronto traded him to Detroit, and then Montreal picked him up in the 71 stretch track. Jacques Lemaire, played for the 71 team. Jellerman Jean Belleville, this was his final season. Mark Tartif, playing for the Habs before, he was a WHA superstar. Frank Mahovlich, the Big M. John Ferguson, the policeman. .2, no Mickey Redmond. He got traded to Detroit in the Frank Mahovlich deal. And it worked out. Redmond was a good Red Wing player and color commentator for their things. Phil Roberto, who actually assisted on the 500th goal by Jean Belleville. I thought he went to Detroit too. Pocket Rocket Richard, who was good, but then basically Al McNeil hated him. J.C. Tremblay, great player before he went to the WHA and were bigger. Claude Larose, Peanut, Bobby Sheehan, Bill Collins was also traded to Detroit. Serge Savard, Leon Rocheford, Guy Charon, the guy who had 700 games in the NHL and never got a playoff appearance ever. He would have been if he stayed on the 71 Habs, but he didn't. He went to Detroit, and they missed the playoffs by plenty. Terry Harper, Laurie Plow on the team for future WHA legend himself. Ralph Backstrom, who was traded to Los Angeles because Backstrom figured his playing time was going to dwindle, and he wasn't going to be helping the team. So he said, trade me to LA. Fine. And it worked out because Backstrom inadvertently helped LA stay out of the NHL basement, meaning that Montreal, who had Oakland's first pick after a 1970 trade, had the number 1 pick in their arsenal, and they got Guy Lafleur. Van Huck, what the? Jacques Leperrier on the team, and Pierre Bouchard. All right, here we go. This could decide it. So 5 minutes into the game, battle control defense action. There's a hit. 1 minute later, 71. Sean Belleville can't put it in. Much later, 6 minutes. Aggression. Showman Sean Belleville, who's 4th from Ferguson. 4 minutes later. The 79 team trying to score. Lambert. 2 minutes later. And it's Fergie. Can they take advantage? Napier can't. Now can LaRouche. And the 71 squad up 1-0 trying to force a game 7. 2 minutes later. The 71 squad. Ooh, stopped by Dryden. Much later. The attack is reduced. 71 squad gets a penalty. It's Mahowich. It doesn't matter which one. Steve Shutt can't. They'll kill the zone, meaning Montreal gets no chance. Action on Lafleur? No. Now 1 more minute. Catch by Lafleur. Stop by Meyer. What a job by Phil Meyer. 1 more minute. Harper. They score! Pop-up power play goal. Oh, mon dieu! He scores from Jarvis and Lafleur, his first of the series, first in the 6-game series. Lafleur with 6 assists. Much later, Pierre Mondu trying to score, but he can't. It's 1-1 after 40 minutes. Oh, that was after 20 minutes. Okay. So 1-1 tie. 2 minutes into the third. Goal reduced. Uh-oh, he's rattled. Dryden's rattled. But he doesn't seem that rattled. And Lafleur scores! La 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 Lafleur. His fourth from LaRouche and Robinson. Kitchener. 3-1. 2 minutes later. Roger delivers a hit. 1 minute later. Gresham? It's Langway, of all people. But they killed the zone, meaning no power play chance. 5 minutes later. 41.2. Robs the can't, and now they can go Fleur. 2-1. So now it's going to be down to the final minute. And the 31 squad, Tardif is in the box, so that should be an empty net opportunity. We're tied at 2. Cornway, 11 seconds left. Nothing to lose in the net, empty net. We're tied at 2. We go to overtime until we play. On the power play, Lafleur can't score. 3 minutes later. Overtime, Rolex with a quick shot. Rod frickin' Langway. You can go your Langway. Go your Langway. Unreal. The future Washington icon is the hero from Pierre Mondu. And the 79 Habs win this 6-game mini-series. They're still one of the best teams around. They went on Prolagashi on 3-2. What a game. What a game. Dryden and Meyer held their own. And the 79 Habs win the game. Rod Langway, of all freaking people. And he got the only penalty for the 79 Habs. Amazing. So that 6-game series. The 71 Habs, Vachon 2-1. Meyer was 0-2. Dryden played 1 game and got his butt handed to him. Sean Belleville with 7 points. Cornway and Pete Maholich with 5. The 79 squad. Dryden was 3-0. Buddy LaRocque was 1-2. So basically, Dryden was the answer. Lafleur with 10 points. Robinson with 7. Pointy with 5. The 1 point by Rod Langway in the 6-game series, and that was the winning goal. That's how you do it. That's how she rolls. Too bad they won't tell you all about the playoffs. They just all that 5-2, 6-2, 3-0, 7-4, 5-2, 3-2. Wow. This was the only game that did not have a 3-goal deficit. Did not have a 3-goal win for anybody. It went down to the freaking wire. I guess playing the game actually does help everything. And the 79 Habs are still the main man. Now, of course, Stone Cold Hockey, every season, NHL season they've released, I've have. The only other Montreal season is the 75 squad. But that was when Dryden and crew couldn't beat Buffalo in the semifinals. But I made the 71 and 79 Habs go toe-to-toe. And it worked, didn't it? Anyway, RIP Ken Dryden. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.